Something about Stranger Things 5 feels different. Darker. Heavier. Almost uncomfortably real. And if you've been feeling that weight too, here's the strange part: it's not because of monsters, CGI, or plot leaks. What you're feeling is coming from a deeper place inside you, a quiet part of your mind that the show is now targeting more directly than ever. Season 5 feels darker because it's triggering psychological mechanisms you're not consciously aware of. And today, we're going to pull that darkness into the light. The truth is, the show hasn't changed as much as you think. You have. When Stranger Things first came out, the world felt different. You felt different. You watched the early seasons with the mind of someone who still believed certain things about life, about friendships, love, safety, and the future. Now, years later, Season 5 hits differently because you're not the same person who entered Hawkins in 2016. You're older. You've survived heartbreak, disappointment, fear, and loss. Your brain doesn't consume stories the same way anymore. It filters them through experience, not imagination. And that shift is exactly why Season 5 feels so dark, because your emotional lens has darkened with time. Psychologists call this phenomenon emotional resonance drift. It means the same story feels heavier as your life becomes heavier. That's why people say things like, Stranger Things doesn't feel fun anymore, or Season 5 feels too real. The truth is that the show hasn't suddenly become more brutal. Your perception has. You're watching it with a mind that has seen more, felt more, and lost more than it had years ago. The darkness was always there. You just weren't ready to see it. There's also something deeper happening, a psychological effect triggered by every final season of a beloved story: anticipatory grief. Anticipatory grief is what happens when your brain starts mourning something before it's even gone. And that's exactly what you're experiencing. You're already grieving the end of Stranger Things, not because the story is ending, but because a part of your own timeline is ending with it. When you think of the early seasons, you're not just remembering a show, you're remembering who you were back then. The friends you talked to. The dreams you had. The moments you didn't realize you would never get back. Season 5 threatens to close the door on all of that. And your subconscious feels it. That's why every teaser, every rumor, every leaked frame feels heavy. The darkness isn't in the upside down. It's in the emotional goodbye your brain knows is coming. There's a controversial but psychologically accurate reason Season 5 feels so much darker: the characters are no longer children. In earlier seasons, their pain felt symbolic. Childhood danger is easier to process because it feels distant from adult reality. But now that the characters are older, their suffering hits closer to home. Adult pain feels personal. Their struggles resemble real life: identity confusion, relational conflict, existential fear, emotional detachment, loss of innocence. When the characters face darkness now, you are subconsciously reflecting on your own darkness. Humans have a bias we rarely admit: we tolerate trauma in children's stories, because childhood pain feels like metaphor. But when young adults suffer, we feel exposed. Their pain mirrors the parts of ourselves we try to hide. Their fear becomes our fear. Their confusion becomes our confusion. Season 5 feels darker not because the show has changed its formula, but because innocence has died. The characters lost it. And you lost it too. Growing up is the real horror of Stranger Things. No monster in the Upside Down is more terrifying than the reality of growing older, watching people drift apart, losing the simplicity you once had, realizing the world will not always save you, and learning that some wounds don't heal, they become part of you. Season 5 leans heavily into this truth. It's not the danger that frightens you, it's the sense of inevitability. The feeling that the characters are walking into adulthood with more scars than memories. The feeling that you are too. There's another reason this season feels heavier: the trauma loop. Every major character is trapped in it, and the audience is too. The trauma loop is when you face the same emotional wound repeatedly, each time deeper than before. Season 1 gave you fear of the unknown. Season 2 gave you fear of loss. Season 3 gave you fear of change. Season 4 gave you fear of yourself. And Season 5 is designed to confront the fear you've been avoiding all along, the fear of endings. The trauma loop doesn't just belong to the characters. It belongs to you. Their emotional evolution parallels your own. And because you've lived through your own cycles of fear and loss, the characters' struggles feel more intimate, more raw, and more psychologically threatening. Vecna isn't terrifying because he kills. He's terrifying because he exposes. He represents the darkest part of the human mind, the return of repressed fear. The shadow self. The memories you refuse to look at. The guilt you avoid. The pain you carry quietly. Vecna is not a monster from the upside down. He's a metaphor for the thoughts you bury but never outrun. Season 5 feels darker because the villain is no longer an external force, it's the internal one. There's also a philosophical truth at play here: stories don't get darker with time, people do. When you first watched Stranger Things, you may have had more hope, more innocence, more emotional energy. Now, the world feels heavier, your responsibilities feel bigger, your disappointments have shaped you. You've grown up. And when people grow up, they stop viewing stories as pure entertainment and start viewing them as mirrors. This creates a psychological effect called emotional shadowing. It means you subconsciously project your own struggles onto the characters. 11's loss of control feels like the moments you lost control. Mike and 11 drifting apart reminds you of your own relationships falling apart. Will's loneliness echoes the times you felt left behind. Hopper's search for purpose reflects your own silent struggle to feel meaningful. The darkness is not in Hawkins. It's in the emotional shadows you carry while watching. Another reason Season 5 feels heavy is because the brain fears endings more than it fears monsters. Studies show that people experience peak anxiety not during danger, but during approaching finality. When something meaningful nears its end, your brain senses emotional threat. That's what you feel every time you see a Season 5 update. You're not afraid of what will happen in the story. You're afraid of how you'll feel afterward. It's not the end of Stranger Things that scares you. It's the emotional void it will leave behind. It's the fear that once the show ends, you'll be forced to confront your own life without the comfort of a fictional world that grew alongside you. Your brain is also reacting to uncertainty, a psychological trigger more powerful than fear. Season 5 is built around unanswered questions. Who will die? Who will survive? Will anyone get closure? Will someone sacrifice themselves? Will Hawkins ever return to normal? Will the emotional wounds heal, or will the show leave them open? The brain hates open loops, and Season 5 is one giant open loop. That uncertainty feels dark because unresolved tension activates anxiety, anticipation, and emotional stress. But the deepest reason Season 5 feels darker is this: the story is forcing you to confront questions you've avoided in your own life. Questions about identity, loss, endings, purpose, and the parts of yourself you've buried. The final season isn't just challenging the characters, it's challenging you. So now, the real question becomes, what are you actually afraid of? Are you afraid of Hawkins falling apart? Or are you afraid of your own life changing in ways you didn't expect? Are you afraid of characters dying? Or are you afraid of losing the emotional comfort they gave you? Are you afraid of the darkness on screen? Or are you afraid of the darkness inside yourself that the story exposes? Ask yourself, why do certain deaths scare you more than others? Why do fictional relationships feel meaningful? Why does the end of a show feel like the end of a chapter in your life? What part of your past is Stranger Things keeping alive? What fear are you projecting onto the story? And the hardest question of all, what will you do when the show ends, and you are left alone with your own unresolved monsters? Stranger Things 5 feels darker because it is the final mirror, reflecting back the person you became while watching it. Its darkness is not artificial. It is emotional. It is psychological. It is personal. The monsters were never the darkness. The darkness was always inside the audience. Season 5 just decided to turn on the light.